Dear friends, welcome to InQUEST. In this video, let's discuss about 5th October 2021 daily current affairs, useful for your UPSC, KPSC and all other competitive exams. Let's see the index of today's discussion. Number one, world leaders pledge to save forest and cut methane emission. So these are actually, the deforestation and cut the emissions of methane. So these are all the outcomes of COP26. So let's find out the details of which countries they actually committed to cut down methane emissions and which countries have opted to stay out of the same. So article number 2, one sun, one world, one grid for seamless energy. So we have spoken about OSOWOG in the previous videos, but now this idea has been endorsed by so many countries in COP26. So let's find out the details here in this article. So article number 3, India to help countries prone to climate change. So those countries which are that are prone to climate change. So now India is lending a helping hand for those countries to create resilient infrastructure to combat climate change. And successful flight tests of indigenously developed smart anti-airfield weapon. So smart anti-airfield weapons have been successfully tested. So let's find out the complete details of smart anti-airfield weapons in this video. Article number 5, Karnataka lacks in meeting 4 sustainable development goals. So as you all know, so we have 17 sustainable development goals to be met out of 17. So Karnataka is lagging behind in 4 of the 17 sustainable development goals. So in this article, let us find out which are all the areas that the Karnataka is lagging behind. So with this, let's go to the article number 1. So world leaders pledge to save forests, cut methane emission. Now, why the cutting of methane emission is important? So let's find out the details here in this article. So methane is the main greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide. So we all know carbon dioxide is the top one emitter. So apart from carbon dioxide, methane comes in the second position in terms of the main greenhouse gases. And it has a high heat trapping potential than carbon dioxide, but breaks down in the atmosphere faster, meaning that cutting methane emission can have a rapid impact in reining the global warming. So the problem of these greenhouse gases is, they are going to make a layer in the atmosphere. So what is the energy that is heat that comes from the sun? So it hits on the earth's surface and it gets reflected. So this reflected heat should again enter into the atmosphere, but the layer that is formed out of these greenhouse gases will not allow these heat waves to get out of the atmosphere. Rather, they again reflected back on the earth. So this actually increases the global temperature, and this amount of heat trapping is actually more with respect to methane is what this article says. So methane actually has the higher heat trapping potential, but the difference with respect to carbon dioxide is it can be easily broken down compared to breaking down of carbon dioxide. So that's the reason why. So if you could able to reduce the methane, so then we can actually achieve it will have a rapid impact in reining the global warming. So we can reduce the global warming faster is what this article says. So that is the reason why many countries have pledged to cut down methane emission. So leaders at COP26 Global Climate Conference in Glasgow have pledged to stop deforestation by the end of the decade and slash emissions of greenhouse gases, I mean to say methane, to help slow climate change. So 2 pledges have been made, one to achieve deforestation, other to achieve the emission of greenhouse gases, and the greenhouse gas that is in concentration is methane. The inability of major powers so far to agree more broadly on rapid reductions in the use of fossil fuels, the main cause of man-made global warming, has upset the poorer small countries likely to suffer its worst. So many major parts, I mean to say the countries that are the major contributors to this global warming so far have not taken a broader the remedies to cut down this fossil fuels or use of fossil fuels. So as we know, use of fossil fuels is the main cause of man-made global warming. So it is kind of like, somebody is creating a problem, but somebody else is suffering, and sufferer is not at all creating the problem. So the major parts, I mean to say most of the developed countries, they are the major contributors of these greenhouse gases, but ultimate sufferers are the poorer countries like African nations like Nigeria, Kenya, Congo, Somalia. So they don't actually produce so much of carbon or methane, but ultimately they suffer because of the carbon or the greenhouse gases that is being produced by these powerful nations. And nearly 90 countries have joined US and European Union led efforts to slash emission of methane 30% by 2030 from 2020 levels. See, I mean to say, this pledge has been taken by 90 countries, but this idea was conceived by United States and European Union. But later, 90 countries have joined this particular pledge to cut, methane emission. To what extent? So 30% of emission of methane that should be cut by, 2030 from 2020 level. So whatever the levels of methane that was there in the year 2020, to which 30% of the methane emission should be cut by, before reaching 2030 or on or before reaching 2030 is the pledge taken by 90 countries, and they have joined US and European Union. The global methane pledge first announced in September. So as I told you, so it was earlier announced, but the pledge has been taken now. So now covers emissions from 2/3 of the global economy. So since 90 countries have joined this particular pledge, so it covers 2/3 of the global economy. So among the signatories is Brazil. So among all the signatories, one of the countries is Brazil. So it is one of the 5 biggest emitters of methane, so which is generated in cow's digestive system, landfill waste, and oil and gas production. So these are the 3 main areas of production of this methane. One is from the digestive system of cows, landfill waste. For example, if we grow paddy, that straw will be thrown away in the land. So that is the major emitter of methane. And once again, oil and gas production. So these are the emitters of methane. 3 other nations like China, Russia, and India, so they are also top 10 methane emitters, have not signed up. So including our country, India, so China and Russia have not joined this particular pledge. And now let's talk about deforestation. So $19 billion for forests. So in 2020, the world lost 258,000 square kilometers of forests, according to Global Forest Watch. So you can see the number of acres, it is huge. 258,000 square kilometers of forests have been lost in the year 2020, as per the reports of Global Forest Watch. The conservation, charity WWF estimates that 27 football fields of forest are lost every minute. So, you know how big the football fields are. So every minute, so such 27 football fields, similar size of forest has been lost over the years. So particularly in 2020, as estimated by WWF. So over 100 national, national leaders pledged to halt and reverse deforestation and land degradation by the end of the decade, underpinned by $19 billion in public and private funds to invest in protecting and restoring forests. So this has been the fund that has been dedicated for this purpose. More than, I mean to say, over 100 nations have actually pledged to halt, in the sense stop and reverse deforestation. So we need to bring back the forest. At the same time, we need to reverse the land degradation, and this is targeted to be achieved by next decade. And this has the outlay of around $19 billion that should be used in public, private funds, and that will be availed from public or private funds that will be invested in protecting and restoring the forests. The agreement expands a commitment by 40 countries as a part of 2014 New York Declaration of Forest. And this agreement expands a commitment by 40 countries. So this agreement is actually committed by 40 countries as a part of 2014 New York Declaration Forest. So this is, other than what we are speaking here. So here, the New York Declaration Forest, that is actually conceived in the year 2014, to which around 40 countries have committed to this particular New York Declaration of Forest. So let's find out what is New York Declaration Forest as well in this article. So COP26 aims to keep alive a receding target of capping global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level to avert still greater damage from the heat waves, droughts, floods, and coastal damage that climate change is already causing. So, the earlier promise, like to reduce increase in global temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius, is still there with respect to that is being once again reiterated in COP26. And due to this, we can actually prevent a lot of heat waves, droughts, floods, and coastal damage that climate change is already causing. So this can be prevented by reducing the global temperature or restricting the rise in global temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius. So under the agreement, 12 countries pledged to provide 12 billion of public funding between 2021 and 2025 for developing countries to restore degraded land and tackle wildfires. So there will be, in this particular agreement, 12 countries have pledged to provide 12 billion US dollars of public funding between 2021 to 2025. So this funding will be given to developing countries. So for the reason of restoring degraded land and also tackle the wildfires. And let's know more about New York Declaration that we saw a while ago. The New York Declaration on Forests is a voluntary and non-legal binding political declaration which grew out of dialogue among governments, companies, and civil society spurred by the United Nations Secretary General Climate Summit held in New York 2014. So this New York Declaration Forest is actually voluntary and it is non-legal binding, political declaration which grew out of dialogue among various governments, various companies, and civil society, and it was spurred by United Nations Secretary General's Climate Summit. It was held in New York in 2014, so that's why it is called as New York Declaration on Forests. The declaration pledges to have the rate of deforestation by 2020 to end, the declaration pledges to half the rate of deforestation by 2020. So since the pledge is taken in 2014, their target was to be met in 2020 to reduce to 50% the rate of deforestation by 2020 and completely end it by 2030, and to restore hundreds of millions of acres of degraded land as well. The proposed land restoration is described as covering an area larger than India. So their proposed area of covering is an area that is larger than India. We know how big the country India is. So their proposed, land restoration is as big as or even bigger than India. The pledge now includes 6 of the world's 10 biggest methane emitters. So this I'm talking with respect to, reduction in methane emitters. So there are 6 world's top 10, or 10 biggest methane emitters, like United States, Brazil, Indonesia, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Mexico have actually taken pledge to cut down methane. While it is not a part of the formal UN negotiations, the methane pledge could rank among the most significant outcomes from the COP26 conference, given its potential to impact in holding off disastrous climate change. So this is not there in the agenda only. To tell you in very simple words, cutting down methane or taking pledge on methane emission was not there in the formal meeting of or formal UN negotiations. But still, many countries have shown voluntary interest to cut down methane and take a pledge on reducing methane emission. So this is the greatest or the significant outcomes of COP26 conference, given its potential impact in holding off disastrous climate change. A UN report in May said steep cuts in methane emissions this decade could avoid nearly 0.3 degree Celsius of global warming by 2040. So by cutting this particular methane emission, we can actually avoid, rise in temperature to an extent of 0.3 degree Celsius, or we can reduce 0.3 degrees Celsius of temperature rise or global warming by 2040s. So with this, let's go to the next article. One sun, one world, one grid for seamless energy. So this was the idea that was conceived by India to to avoid to overcome the challenges of storing the solar energy. Now this has endorsed by many countries in the COP26. So over 80 countries endorse initiative by India and UK. So this is the initiative of India and UK. So in COP26, an initiative by India and United Kingdom to tap solar energy and have its travel seamlessly across borders was announced. So we know what is OSOWOG. So when as we all know, due to the rotation of Earth around the sun, so half of the globe will be dark and half of the globe will be light. So they are making a grid connection between the countries, so that when it is light in some other country, it will be dark in other country. There will be live connection of solar energy from one country to another country and vice versa. So this is called as OSOWOG, and that's why it is called as, so it can travel seamlessly across borders. It includes a group of governments called Green Grid Initiatives, One Sun, One World, One Grid group, and was announced at COP26 by summit host United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So One Sun declaration endorsed by more than 80 countries, setting out group's aim. So this idea has been endorsed by more than 80 countries. So clean energy. So all the energy humanity uses in a year is equal to the energy that reaches the earth from the sun in single hour. So you can imagine how much of energy that is there with the sun. I mean to say, all the energy that the humanity uses in 1 year, so in one entire year, is equal to the amount of energy that reaches the earth from the sun in just single hour. So you can imagine how much of energy that sun or solar energy has in it. The sun never sets every hour, so it doesn't set every hour. Half the planet is bathed in sunshine. So by trading energy from sun, wind, water across borders, we can deliver more than enough clean energy to meet the needs of everyone on earth. So we call this solar energy as clean energy because it doesn't create any pollution. So by using energy that is produced from sun and wind and even from water sources, so we can produce more than enough clean energy to meet the needs of everyone on earth. So research support from the Green Grid initiatives is being provided by the Climate Compatible Growth Consortium of the universities. So many universities are providing the support to this particular Green Grid initiative, so which include Cambridge, Imperial College, Oxford, and University College London. So these universities are providing the support of research to this particular OSOWOG. The Green Grids Initiative working group, made up of national and international agencies, have already been established for Africa and for the Asia Pacific region. So the initiative, this Green Grid Initiative working groups, made up of, it has both national and international agencies, have already been established for two regions. One is Africa and other one is Asia Pacific region. Their members include most major multilateral development banks, such as African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, and World Bank. So these are the banks that are financially supporting this particular green energy or clean energy program. So with this, let's go to the next article. India to help countries prone to climate change. So let's see the complete details here. The PM launches infrastructure for resilient island states. So states, as we all know, they are very prone to disasters or the climate change. So now from India, PM launches that there will be infrastructure for resilient islands states, says climate threats are a matter of life and death for them. So obviously it is a matter of life and death. So India launched an ambitious initiative for developing infrastructure of small island nations. So for these small island nations, so India launched an ambitious initiative to create infrastructure or the resilient infrastructure. The launch of infrastructure for resilient island states, that is in short called as IRIS, was attended by Australian Prime Minister Scott Morris and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. And last year, 600 billion tons of ice melted away in Greenland. So you can imagine 600 billion tons of ice melted. So you can imagine the fate of these island nations. So it's incredibly cruel that these incredibly small island states are right, in the front line of the loss and damage that is caused by global warming. So as there is a global warming and this makes this glacier melt, and these island countries are the first countries to get damaged, and they have done virtually nothing to cause a problem. So obviously these countries are not the contributors to global warming, but they are having the trouble of pollution caused by some other nation. So they didn't produce the huge volumes of CO2 to be pumped into the atmosphere. So they did not produce, or neither they are producing any significant amount of carbon dioxide, but they are the sufferers ultimately. The IRIS initiative is a part of CDRI, that is Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, that would focus on building capacity, having pilot projects, especially in small island developing states. So this is actually to increase the focus on building capacity and having pilot projects. So they will start with pilot projects to check how far they can support these nations, so especially in small island developing states. So that would also involve in some senses setting up norms and standards for resilient infrastructure. So there will be some standard norms and standards that will be set for infrastructure development, so with infrastructure loss from cyclones, etc. So they should be resistant enough to these kind of cyclones, or infrastructure should be strong enough or resilient to natural calamities. So especially small island states and coastal areas are vulnerable to these ravages of climate change. And this IRIS is an effort to try and equip countries that are particularly vulnerable to climate change. The new initiative is the result of cooperation between India, UK, and Australia. So this initiative is happening because of the cooperation between India, UK, and Australia, and included the participation of leaders of small island nations such as Fiji, Jamaica, and Mauritius. So these island nations have also joined the hands for this particular initiative. So India's Council on Energy, Environment and Water welcomed the launch of IRIS as a recognition of the severity of climate risk, which can unravel decades of development, especially for the most vulnerable countries and communities. So this definitely it is going to topple out, or it is going to destroy lots of developmental activities. They will have taken decades of time to establish these infrastructure. So this kind of an initiative is going to help them to save such infrastructure. So with this, let's go to article number 4. So this is in relation to Ministry of Defense. DRDO and Indian Air Force carry out successful flight tests of indigenously developed smart anti-airfield weapon. So that is in short called as SAW also. So what is this smart anti-airfield weapon? So basically, whenever any country attacks India, for example, our country, they will create a base camps. So from these base camps, they will actually launch missiles and etc. and they will attack enemy nations. For them, we will be enemy nation. For us, they will be enemy nation. And now whenever they attack us, so it is it is for us to counter attack and destroy these base camps. And whenever we want to destroy these base camps, so we have this kind of new technology that is called as smart anti-airfield weapon. So this is the picture that you are seeing here, the picture number 1. So that is called as smart anti-aircraft weapon. So this is actually fitted to the aircraft. So now the advantage of this particular aircraft is its accuracy. So it can definitely hit the correct target. So if you set the target of destroying this particular base camp, it exactly comes and hits this particular base camp. So that is the reason why it is called as smart anti-airfield weapon. So let's find out the complete details here. Two flight tests of indigenously developed smart anti-airfield weapon have been carried out jointly by DRDO and Indian Air Force. So they have done not one test, they have done two flight tests. It is done by jointly by DRDO and Indian Air Force. The two different configurations based on satellite navigation and electro-optical sensors. So they have two technical specifications here. They had one satellite navigation and electro-optical sensors have been successfully tested. So electro-optical seeker based flight test of this class of bomb has been conducted for the first time in the country. So out of these two technologies, the other one, I mean to say electro-optical seeker based flight test. So such test has been conducted for the very first time in India. The electro-optic sensor has been developed indigenously. So this technology has been developed in India itself. The weapon was launched by an IAF aircraft from Chandan Ranges at Jaisalmer, Rajasthan. So this test has been conducted at Rajasthan or in Rajasthan. Electro-optical configuration of the system is equipped with imaging infrared seeker technology, enhancing the precision strike capability of the weapon. So as I told you initially, so it has the most accurate or precise in terms of reaching the target. So in both the tests, the intended target was hit with high accuracy. So in both the tests, irrespective of what the type of technology that they have used, as we are speaking about dual technology here. So in both the tests, intended target was hit with great accuracy. And the system is designed for maximum range of 100 kilometers. So it can reach up to the target of 100 kilometers. So smart anti-airfield weapon has been designed and developed by Research Center Imarat, that is RCI, in coordination with the DRDO laboratories and extensive support from IAF. Quality and design certification agencies have contributed significantly in its development, and Hindustan Aeronautic Limited, that is HAL Bengaluru, has carried out weapon integration with the aircraft. So the integration of this weapon into the aircraft is done by Hindustan Aeronautic Limited, that is HAL of Bengaluru. So these are the different assistance that is being provided by various organizations for the development of this particular weapon integrated or this aircraft. So with this, let's go to the article number 5. Karnataka lacks in meeting 4 sustainable development goals. So as we all know, there are 17 sustainable development goals, out of which Karnataka is lagging behind in 4 sustainable development goals. So let's find out the same. So Karnataka has fallen behind in at least 4 sustainable goals this year concerning hunger, poverty, healthcare, and sustainable cities. So these are the 4 sustainable development goals that the state of Karnataka is lagging behind. One is hunger, other one is poverty, next one is healthcare, and the last one is sustainable cities. So according to a report presented in this regard in recent Karnataka Development Program meeting, so this actually findings have been done in Karnataka Development Program meeting. So there has been slow progress when it comes to assuring healthcare for pregnant women. So this is why we are lagging in these 4 sustainable development goals, because of we have shortfalls in healthcare of pregnant women, vaccination for children, apart from lagging behind in waste segregation and processing, and among others. There were concerns flagged about performance relating to sustainable development goal number 1. So you can see goal number 1 is no poverty. So end poverty or no poverty. So we are lagging in this. And second goal, that is achieving zero hunger. So we are also lagging in this. And goal number 3, that is to ensure health and well-being for all. So good health and well-being. So we are lagging in the 4th goal also. And goal number 11, that you can see here, sustainable cities and communities. So sustainable cities and communities. So we are lagging in this also. So why we are lagging? So let's find out the reasons. For instance, when it comes to complete vaccination of children in age group of 12 to 23 months, So vaccines related to BCG, measles, and 3 doses of pentavalent vaccine. So that is supposed to be given complete vaccination of children in the age group of 12 to 23 months. The government has a target of reaching up to 11.21 lakh. So our target is to reach 11.21 lakh children, but of this, so far only 4.9 lakh have been vaccinated. So there is a huge gap. So 11 and minus, you can see the difference. So that's why we are lagging in this. So in other area of health intervention, the government has set a target of including at least 8.62 lakh families under any state health scheme. For example, like Ayushman Bharat, the target was to make sure that we have at least 8.62 lakh families under such schemes. Until now, it has reached only 3.4 lakh families. Like, for example, you can see the difference. Target was approximately 8, and we could reach only 3 lakh families to be registered in such healthcare schemes. So there is much work to be done when it comes to sustainable cities. So while the target of waste processing is 5,006 tons per day. So target was to make sure at least waste processing of 5,006 tons per day. So thus far the government has been able to achieve only 880 tons per day. So our target is around 5,000 and we are reaching only to an extent of 800 tons per day. So we are lagging in this particular maintaining of sustainable cities as well. So out of the targeted construction of 33,400 houses under Pradhana Mantri Awas Yojana, work has been completed only on 1,267 units. Our target is approximately around 33,000. We could able to do only 1,200 approximately with respect to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So in construction, the project is being implemented through the Slum Development Board. So this project has been implemented through Slum Development Board. So in December 2020, launching a Vision 2030 for SDGs, then Chief Minister. So in December 2020, then Chief Minister launched the vision for 2030 of Sustainable Development Goals. So out of these 17 goals, we are lagging behind in 4 goals. And the Vice Chairman of State Policy and Planning Commission right now is BJ Puttaswamy. So these are the articles of the day. So if you have any questions, you can definitely put in comments box. We'll be more than happy to answer to your questions. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.